Breaking news from Trump world this morning. Two sources with direct knowledge of the situation have told NBC News that the former president's attorneys are meeting with prosecutors in the special counsel's office in Washington, D.C. today and have been told to expect an indictment against Trump related to January 6th and the 2020 election. And apparently that indictment could come as soon as today.
Here's MSNBC on the matter. Let's watch.
Well, Jose, we're able to report now from two sources with direct knowledge of the situation that two of Donald Trump's attorneys have just been meeting with the special counsel here in the office building behind me. We saw a very similar meeting a few days before the announcement in the classified, or the announcement of an indictment in the classified documents case came through. As Tom and others have outlined, this is the kind of thing that you would typically see with attorneys coming in to try to do sort of a last-minute negotiation, convince prosecutors not to make charges against their client. We don't know the specifics of this meeting here, but it was widely reported that these attorneys were seen arriving here shortly around 10 o'clock this morning. We believe we just saw them depart about 11 o'clock today after what we know was a meeting with the special counsel's office to discuss the strong possibility of an indictment of their client later today. It's our understanding that these lawyers have been told to expect an indictment against former President Trump related to this elections investigation, possibly as soon as today. Jose?
So this was expected. Obviously, they're proceeding with an indictment relating to. So all we know is relating to January 6th and the 2020 election. That leaves a lot of potential areas for this to be about. My concern is that, specifically trying to tie Donald Trump to the riot, to the trespassing at the Capitol, that's something the January 6th Commission tried very hard to do. It's something that ultimately was already kind of decided at the, the level of, Trump was impeached by the House. The Senate voted whether to remove him from office. They declined to do so. And I have look, no one should be above the law. And if he committed crimes, he should be indicted for them. He should be prosecuted for them, et cetera. I have no personal loyalty or even remaining affection for Donald Trump on the election stuff specifically. And so if they have new information, that's fine. And I think we have a lot of questions about his activity immediately after the election and the Georgia conversation,
right.
the things he did that were wildly inaccurate and fraudulent. But he was. This was decided. This was looked at by the Senate. I think the appropriate mechanism for his conduct unbecoming of his office was the impeachment proceeding. And I'm sorry, they lost. He was retained in office. You had some Republicans even voting for it, but not enough. And that's kind of that. I don't believe, I've not been persuaded that he was part of a conspiracy on January 6th to cause that to happen. I'm skeptical even of the charges they brought for conspiracy charges against some of the Proud Boy leaders, all that. It was did his words contribute to the riot? I think absolutely. In a legal and a criminal way, no. So I'm sort of wary of them going down this road yet again. That said, we have to wait for what evidence they had. It turned out in the boxes case, the documents case, Mar-a-Lago, the evidence they had was actually much stronger than maybe people naively believed initially. So we'll have to wait. But I think the worst thing you could do is have yet another witch hunt against Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think what we could see happen is some kind of a charge for him spreading this idea among his base at the rally just beforehand that what's going on in Congress is they're attempting to steal an election. I think honestly,
but wouldn't that be wouldn't that be a charge for speech? I mean, it's bad speech, not denying the things he said were inaccurate, but your First Amendment right to say really bad, just like Senator Rand Paul was saying in our interview earlier today, your First Amendment right to say really bad stuff is extremely robust. It crosses a line when you're calling for imminent violence in a very against a specific person or place and in a time, place, manner kind of thing. Then it can violate the First Amendment. But I'm not at all persuaded that what Donald Trump said rises to that level.
Yeah, I think his failure to call the National Guard on the day of January 6th is quite interesting. The way that the Secret Service exclaimed that they were, pretty aware of what was going on January 6th suggests that what was going on internally in the Trump administration might be more closer to planning January 6th than we are able to know. What came out in the January 6th committee hearing was pretty damning for Donald Trump. The things that he was saying behind the scenes that, members of the Secret Service knew about, the way that so many text messages just directly after January 6th were deleted by Secret Service agents that were close to Trump and in his detail that day is also very concerning and quite damning. But I really do think that where the most evidence is and where we're most likely to get a really solid indictment on Donald Trump is in Georgia, where DA Fani Willis has really done quite a good job gathering evidence, assembling a grand jury. And it seems that what's happened in Georgia is that the fake electors have kind of told on each other, right? They've entered in some kind of deal with the DA's office and given names and given details about what their plans were. That's pretty damning. The find me an 11,000 votes conversation is quite damning. So I think really where we're going to see something happen here as it pertains to the election and Donald Trump's actions in the days after is in Georgia, in Fulton County.
Yeah. I mean, again, damning the things he said, the text message, everything, damning of his moral fiber, but is it damning in a liable criminal sort of way? That's what I've not been persuaded on a lot of this January 6th specific stuff. Now, again, maybe this is more focused on election behavior. We don't know at this point, and we'll probably be learning like any minute, I think, from what I understand. But of course, I think the political implication of all this is going to be very clear. We've seen how Republicans, how even the people running against Donald Trump for the Republican nomination for president, we've seen how they're handling all this. They're handling all this by defending him. Not all of them, but his main rivals, DeSantis, Christie going hard on him. But Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, less so. Pence somewhere in the middle. They're definitely not taking again, with the exception of Christie, they're not taking the position that the fact that Donald Trump is a target of these investigations means he should not be president again. In fact, they're saying that this is another reason to oppose Democratic rule, is that they've weaponized the federal government against Republicans. So this is going to play right into the hands of what Donald Trump and most of his rivals for the nomination are all saying.
I think it's funny that recently Donald Trump, in posting about all of this, said, January 6th was an inside job done by the government, which could be an admission of guilt because he was the head of state at that point in time. So I don't know if they'll try and admit that.
It was an inside job, yes. It goes to the highest level of government was involved. In fact, the president of the United States.
Yes, January 6th was an inside job done by the government.
Yeah.
That's an admission of guilt by Donald Trump, I think.
I think he is morally blameworthy, absolutely, for what happened. But whether you can show, on January 6th, it was part of it crossed the line from First Amendment protected speech, I don't know. Maybe they have more. Maybe it's focused on a different part of the election fallout. It remains to be seen. We will definitely have more information on that as it comes out, and more rising right after this.